What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I am back from the hospital. I was in the hospital for 4 days because I had a lower bowel obstruction. I have Crohn's disease. I talked about this on my YouTube channel 6 years ago when I was diagnosed with it. I was in the hospital for that. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because, um, and I don't talk about Crohn's disease all the time, but I want to really talk about to Crohn's patients who are in my situation, whether you have Crohn's or colitis. I want to talk to that crowd because Crohn's Awareness Month, I believe, is in October. I believe so. I could be wrong, but I think it's in October. But for people who don't have Crohn's disease, let me explain what it is. It's a inflammatory bowel disease, and it's inflammatory is the key word because when you have Crohn's, the lower intestines get inflamed. But if you had surgery, like yours truly, after a while, if the disease decides to start acting up again, including no matter how much it's under control, because Crohn's disease is a wild ride, it'll do whatever the fuck it wants to, has a mind of its own. So what it'll do is that it could obstruct. Now, what's an obstruction? An obstruction is it's like a kink. Imagine a hose. Have you ever like if you've ever used a hose to fill up a pool or to water plants, kinks in a hose? Well, imagine that, but in the intestine. And so when I was admitted to the emergency room by ambulance, they did a CAT scan on me. And the CAT scan found out that there was something lodged that kinked my intestine. And it must have been one of my medication, one of my pills that got lodged there. And so they did a x-ray to confirm that. And so yeah, that's what it was. And so I was on IV fluids, mainly because the IV fluids so it could help move it out of the way. And so luckily by the third day, it definitely moved out of the way, and things started to go normal again. And then I took a X-ray. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it had to be yesterday. It was day 4 I was there, and whatever there is completely gone. It's lodged out of the way. It's moved through my body, but an obstruction is a different type of pain than an inflammation. And for Crohn's people, you know what I'm talking about. An inflammation pain is fucking hell, depending on how bad the inflammation is. Like, inflammation could be either as minor as you just need to put a heating pad on it to something major where the room is spinning. Now, for me, most of my inflammations in the past have been somewhere between where the room is spinning and I can't get up to save my life. I can't walk to save my life because I'm in so much pain. And that type of pain is, I would not wish that on anybody. I do not wish Crohn's disease on anybody, because even though it's not life-threatening, it's not cancer, it's not dangerous, it's not, something that can kill you, but it is painful to live with. You got to make serious life alterations with food and diet. I really do need to make better health decisions for me, but Crohn's disease just doesn't form in your lower intestines. It could go as high as your esophagus, which I can't imagine that type of pain. I don't have that type of Crohn's disease, and if I did, I would be in agony. Because to have inflammation in your esophagus all the way down to your lower intestine, that's extraordinarily painful. Now, there's another disease that's like Crohn's and is in the Crohn's family, but it's in the bigger intestine. That's colitis. Now, colitis is like Crohn's disease, and it will inflame when it wants to. And the inflammation of colitis people is said to be much more painful than Crohn's people. I guess colitis is more of a severe disease in terms of pain and how it affects the body. But yeah, it's not a pleasant disease to live with. It's not it won't kill you by any means. It won't fucking kill you. But it's difficult to live with. It really is. Like I said, life altering decisions and stuff like that. I do want to mention, but there is hope for us people. There's hope for us Crohn's/colitis people. Since 2014, there's been a research team in Germany that's been trying to developing a new to try to find a cure, because up until this point, there's never been a cure for Crohn's disease. Charles Darwin is said to have had Crohn's disease, even though there wasn't a name for it. But he was said to have had it. President Eisenhower is said to have had it. And here's the funny thing. Him and I have the same type of Crohn's disease. It's in the lower intestine. His gallbladder was removed. Mine was too. There are several people who have it, famous and not, but it is treatable. It's not curable, but it's treatable. It's not curable as of now, but there's also other sciences being done in Germany as well, not just to try to find a cure, but to try to move it from the DNA of a baby. There's a lot of success stories over in Germany. What they're finding out is babies that are in the womb, close to being born, if they do a DNA test on the mother's blood, and they see specific links in the blood, in the DNA, that could suggest the baby will have Crohn's disease, what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to take out a portion of the DNA from the baby from the womb and inject new DNA that prevents Crohn's disease altogether. And there's a lot of success stories of this happening over in Germany. So therefore, if it's happening in Germany, it's fairly successful. Let's hope, knock on wood, it gets to the United States. Because the less children, the less adults as well with Crohn's disease, the better. Because it is a nasty disease to live with. Speaking of, I just mentioned the cure test earlier. There are success stories with that as well. There are people who have reported that whatever was wrong with them before, like pain-wise, tolerance-wise, whatever food was triggering an inflammation or obstruction, went away. Whatever they're finding with this cure, hopefully it comes to the United States and the rest of the Western world, because it really is saving lives in Germany. And you know what? You gotta love the fact that scientists in other countries are finding these cures that American doctors are too lazy to find a cure for. Like, American doctors will try to find a cure for cancer, rightfully so. because cancer affects a lot of Americans. But yet, Crohn's disease affects a lot of Americans, so does Parkinson's disease. But do you see American doctors trying to find cures for this stuff? No. It's always doctors who live in Europe trying to find cures for this stuff. There's a treatment that Michael J. Fox is on that was, I think they started that study in France to try to find a cure for Parkinson's disease. And whatever medicine was brought over to the United States, whatever formula was given to the doctors to make in medicine for Parkinson's patients, it seems to be working for Michael J. Fox. It really seems to be controlling the shakes of Parkinson's for him. It seems to be making them more manageable. He still has them. They're noticeable, but they're not as severe as they used to. In the early 2000s or mid-early 2000s, you could tell the Parkinson shakes were rough because he would be shaking all the time. If he had an interview on television, you could see it. But now it's not as bad for him. He still has the shakes. You could still see it, but it's not as rough. So whatever was founded by the doctors in France seems to be working. It seems to be working for Parkinson's patients. And hopefully what they find in Germany with a possible cure for Crohn's disease and the complete prevention for babies, let's bring that over to this country. Because America has one of the worst healthcare systems in the world. It really does. It's like, you would think in a country where we're granted life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you would think part of life would be universal health care. I'm a libertarian. And I'm not being a sellout when I say Medicare for all, healthcare for all, free healthcare for all, saves lives. It saves money. People aren't as in debt because they don't have to pay as much in healthcare as they do now. People are more in debt now because they have to pay a shit ton in healthcare. But with free universal healthcare, that's a different story. It comes out in the taxes that we already pay in this country. No matter how much we fight them, we're always going to pay them. But you might as well put something useful in there like free universal healthcare. In that case, everyone would have free healthcare as the moment they're born. Boom. But let's be honest, are the Democrats or Republicans going to allow that? No. No, they aren't. They aren't going to do that. But I'm a libertarian, and I can admit that. I can admit that it's more life-saving and more money-saving than letting the companies tell you what you can and cannot have regarding benefit-wise, regarding healthcare-wise. Because you know what's good for your body, the companies don't. And I want to make a plea to all libertarians here. Libertarians. Fellow libertarians, can you do me a favor? Can we please stop advocating the private companies having control over healthcare? Because what's the libertarian motto? You know what's good for your body. You know what's good for you. Other people don't. And that's true. That's true in general. Because I know what's good for me. I know what works for me. Other people don't. So with that being said, shouldn't I, as someone with Crohn's disease, have free universal health care so I know what treatment, so I could get the treatments that work for me without worrying I could lose my health insurance and I would have to skip out on my Remicade treatments and not get my medicine because I can't afford it? But with free universal health care, I could afford my medicine and I could afford my treatments without a problem. But that's my point, though, is that whether you have a pre-existing condition or not, free universal health care benefits even healthy people. Because healthy people could be one day running a mile and then suddenly cough up blood and realize they have a lung disease that they didn't know about. That it just formed mysteriously and they could get treatment for it because They don't have to worry about not having health insurance or not having to have to pay a copay. But it saves people trillions of dollars. We need to advocate for universal health care. We do. It's not a socialist thing. It's a humanitarian thing. When you can make the case that there are some people who will argue for universal health care from a socialist position, who will say, oh, people should have free universal health care, and this is how it should be. And when they put into certain categories of what benefits people should get, that's when you can say, okay, that sounds a little bit too communist. Because at a certain point, when you say rich people can get certain benefits and poor people can get certain benefits and middle class people should, that's a problem. That's a genuine problem. And I'll call something like that out. But I won't say, oh, well, free universal healthcare is a socialist thing, because it really isn't. It's a humanitarian thing. Doesn't matter what your political position is. Even progressive Republicans, the young Republicans who are running for their local governments all across America, that's a part of their platform is free universal healthcare. Mind blown, right? Mind blown, right? Because we're always told that all Republicans want the private businesses to run people's lives, not young Republicans. Young Republicans, completely different story. Young Republicans are pushing for free universal health care. Young Republicans are pushing for progressive forward thinking. Doesn't mean that they're progressives in the sense that you have SJWs who say they're progressive. No, when Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians say we're progressive minded, meaning we want people in this country to get better benefits to life, better benefits like decent wages, decent health care, decent, housing, fighting homelessness. Because you have all people across the board with different political affiliations putting their life savings that they would otherwise pay for their student loan debt. They're putting their life savings into building tiny houses communities for the homeless in America. These are young Republicans, young Democrats, young Libertarians who are putting their life savings in making homes for the homeless, making homes for those who have nothing. And that is something that should be celebrated. But once again, when it comes to the media, oh, Republicans this, Democrats that, and it's this tit for tat. Let's destroy each other. Let's not listen to each other. But the young people are listening to each other. We disagree with each other on some things, but the goal is to get people free universal health care. The goal is to get people decent jobs. The goal is to get decent wages, decent housing, decent mortgages. The point is, young people in this country, in America, are doing more for this country than what a lot of the older people are. The older people in their 40s, 50s, 60s in Congress or in local governments, they say what we want is, it's a nice idea, but it can't happen. Look around you, folks. Look around you, elitist Democrats and Republicans. Look around you. Young people of all political affiliations are doing what they can to improve the lives of those in their communities. This is a proven fact. Look around you. Look how many young people serve people instead of going out to a bar. Look at how many young people are giving up on hookup apps and deciding to organize shelters for those who are homeless. This is why a lot of young people aren't as wild and crazy as generations before us, because we want to help people. We want to help people We're not self-indulgent. We want to help people. We don't want to see people suffer. Because suffering, whether you were homeless or you're not, I'm not homeless. I never. But if you place yourself in that situation, and that's not hard to do, and you get scared. You get scared. You really do. It's a scary thing to picture yourself homeless. It's a scary thing to picture yourself living in the street. So, yeah, you have young people who are not self-indulgent, putting themselves out there helping other people. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.